Hi sewies and aspiring sewies, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Doyen, and in this tutorial I'm going to be teaching you how to properly sew this jacket you are seeing on your screen. In the last video I taught on how to properly cut this particular jacket, and so in this particular video we're going to continue from where we stopped. So if you're yet to see that video, then you want to watch the previous video before this one. So with no further delay, let's just get right into it. So the first thing I did here was to add my interface to the pocket flap, which is what you can see on your screen. So I'm just going to position them facing each other just as seen in this video. Then the next thing will be to sew following the shape of what we have here. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side as well. After sewing, the next thing you want to do is to notch the edges of the flap, just as you can see me do right here. Then turn this over to the right face. So by the time you're going to be turning over to the right face, you're going to have something in form of an arrow shape, but just make sure that you're using a sharp object to smoothing the edge of each of the flap, just as you can see me do in this video. So once you have that done, this is what it's going to look like. So I'm just going to do the same thing on this other one as well, so we can have two of these. The next thing you want to do is to top stitch on each of the flaps. So I'm just going to go ahead to top stitch on each of the flap. So the next thing you want to do here is to take off the pins and join these pieces together, just as you can see me do right here. So I'm just going to separate each of them and join accordingly. So this is the first part of my jacket, and I'm just going to be joining them together, the right face facing each other. It is quite difficult to actually determine which is the wrong face and the right face of this particular fabric. So I'm just going to make sure that I am joining the right face facing each other. So I'm going to be sewing an allowance of about 0.5 here, just as you can see me do right here. So from this area of my button allowance, remember that we took out about 2 inches for the button allowance. I'm going to just measure in total 5.5 before positioning my pocket flap. So just for clearer view, I'm going to measure 5.5 before I place this flap that you can see me position here. Before I place the flap, I'm going to measure 5.5, just as you can see me do right here before positioning it. So while doing that, I'm going to make sure that I stabilize the flap so that it doesn't shift away from the position in which it is. So I'm just going to make a straight stitch, just as you can see me do right here. So after sewing, this is what it looks like. So by the time I fold in the button allowance, we'll be left with about 3.5 inches. So I'm just going to also repeat the same thing on the other side as well. So after sewing on both sides, this is what we have. This is what it is looking like. Next thing here is I'm going to go ahead to weave this part of my jacket. So after that, the next thing we're going to be doing here is to also top stitch on this part of my jacket. So since I've gone ahead to weave, I'm just going to go ahead to top stitch, making sure that the joining part is facing upward, and I'm top stitching on the remaining allowance that is inside. I hope you understand. So I'm just going to go ahead to top stitch and do the same thing on the other side as well. So after top stitching, this is what we have. This is what it looks like, just as you can see on your screen. So I'd already gone ahead to cut out a stay, of which the wideness of the stay is about 3 inches. I'm going to position this on the button allowance, leaving a little part that I am going to be sewing on. So I'm just going to position the shiny face of the stay on it and go ahead to paste this. So after pasting, this is what it looks like. This is what we have. So I'd already gone ahead to fold in the button allowance as well, and this is what it looks like, just as you can see on your screen. You can see that the crease line is directly on the notch part of my button allowance. Next thing you want to do is to weave on this part of my button allowance, which is what you can see me do right here. I'm also going to repeat the same thing on the other side as well. After weaving, this is what it looks like. So the next thing I'm going to do here is to join the shoulder lines together. For this, what comes first is the back side of my jacket, and I'm going to position the front side on my back side, just as you can see me do right here. Then I'm going to go ahead to make a straight stitch on the shoulder line, just as you can see. I'm also going to do the same thing on the other side as well. Next, on my armhole area, I'm going to form a center point for my armhole. Then I'm going to notch the center point of my armhole, just as you can see me do right here. I'm also going to do the same thing on the other side as well. This is to enable me centralize my sleeve while positioning it around my armhole. I hope you understand. So I'm going to notch that center point, then spread out my armhole like this, then position my sleeve on it. Just as you can see, the center point of my sleeve is the notch part. So I'm just going to stretch this sleeve to circulate around my armhole, just as you can see me do right here. Then I'm going to weave it and do the same thing on the other side as well. So after sewing, this is what it looks like. So I'm just going to go ahead to connect the sleeve, just as you can see the armhole joining connected to each other, and then the down sleeve also connected to each other. So I'm going to start my sewing from this point. So I'm going to be sewing on an allowance of about 0.5. So you can see that we have 6.5 inches on the down sleeve. I'm going to make sure that I am only sewing on the ½ inch sewing allowance. So I'm going to just make a straight stitch down to the body area of my jacket, and I'm also going to repeat the same thing on the other side as well. So after sewing, this is what we have for the down sleeve. We have about 6 inches left for the down sleeve. Next thing here is the down sleeve band. I'm already gonna head to apply a stitch to this, so I'm going to be cutting out 13 inches, which also includes the same allowance. So I'm just going to go ahead to measure 13 inches here and cut out what we have here. So by the time I'm going to be joining and all of that, we'll be left with 12 inches. I hope you understand. So I'm just going to fold this and make a straight stitch on my sewing machine. So what we have here is 6.5. So by the time I'm done sewing, we'll be left with 6 inches. I hope you understand. So after sewing, what I have left is 6 inches. I'm just going to place this on a fold, just as you can see me do right here. I'm also going to do the same thing on the other one as well. Then I'm going to be adding this to the sleeve length. I hope you understand. So this is the down sleeve. I'm going to connect the band to the down sleeve, just as seen, joining facing each other, just as you can see me illustrate in this video. And I'm just going to be sewing this round. I'm also going to do the same thing on the other sleeve as well. So after sewing, this is what it looks like. So because I'm going to be top stitching around the sleeve band, I'm going to be making a straight stitch around this. So this is my down sleeve, and I'm going to be making a stitch around this. The stitch is going to be around 0.25 sewing allowance. So I'm going to just sew around this down sleeve. So after sewing around my down sleeve, I'm going to go ahead to top stitch around my down sleeve. So after top stitching, this is what it looks like. So I'm just going to repeat the same thing on the other sleeve as well. The next thing you want to do here is to connect your button allowance like this, just as you can see. Then from the notch part, you want to measure 0.75 for your button allowance. So I'm just going to go ahead to notch that part and also do the same thing on the other side as well. So I'm going to measure 0.75 here also after the notch part. Then I'm going to notch it with my scissors, just as you can see me do right here. So basically what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to fold my button allowance backward, just as you can see me do right here. Then from that notch point to the second notch point, I'm going to be sewing on it. So to avoid unnecessary bulging, I'm going to just trim out the excess here, and I'm also going to repeat the same thing on the other side as well. So in case you didn't understand how I explained previously, I folded my button allowance backward, just as you can see. Then I started my stitch from the notch point to the second notch point. I hope you understand. So after stitching, I decided to trim from the sewing allowance just to reduce the excess bulging. Then I turned it over to the right face, just as you can see me do right here. Then I also did the same thing on the other side as well, and this is what we have. We already have our button allowance created already. So from this part of my button allowance, I'm going to making a straight stitch. I am making a straight stitch on the wrong face because I am working with a stretchy fabric and I don't want the stitch looking somehow. I don't want it looking awkward. So after sewing, this is what it looks like. I also went ahead to do the same thing on the other side as well, and this is what we have. This is what we have on both sides. After that, the next thing you want to do is to check if your button allowance is equal, and as you can see, what we have here is equal. So you want to check if the stitch at the upper bodies is also aligning together, and as you can see, it is also aligning together. I'm already gonna add to also weave the downside of my jacket, so I'm just going to be folding this on an allowance of 1 inch. So after folding, this is what we have. This is what it looks like. So again, you want to check if it's properly aligned, and as you can see that it is properly aligned. So the next thing I'm going to be doing here is from this point here, I'm going to measure what is left. So from this point to this point, what I have measured here is 8 inches, just as you can see on your screen. So this is the fabric for our collar, and what we have measured here is 18 inches. So I'm just going to go ahead to measure 17 inches here and then cut out what we have here. So 17 inches divided by 2 is equal to 8.5. I hope you understand. So I'm just going to trim whatever excess we have here, just as you can see me do right here. Then I'm going to just fold this just as you can see me do right here. So on this part we have 4 inches, 4.5 inches. So I'm just going to mark that here. Then on this other part here, I'm going to reduce it by 1 inch. So what I have measured here is 3.5 inch. So I'm going to use my French curve to connect these lines together, just as you can see me do right here. So I'm just going to cut out what we have here. So on what part of the collar you're going to go ahead to apply a stay to it. So just as you can see, one part has stay while the other part doesn't have stay. So I'm just going to be sewing on the straight part of my collar. I'm going to start from this point, then I'm going to sew down to the other side. So once I'm done with that, I'm going to turn this over to the right face, just as you can see me do right here. So after that, you want to make sure that you pull out the edges properly so that it is properly balanced, and then you go ahead to iron this. So after ironing, the next thing is to top stitch on my collar. So I'm just going to do that following the shape of what we have here. So on my neckline circumference, I'm going to notch the center point of my neckline circumference. So I'm going to connect the button allowance like this, then notch the center point, just as you can see. So the collar has been notched at the center point already. So I'm just going to place my collar and make a straight stitch round my neckline circumference. So after sewing, this is what it looks like. So I'm just going to go ahead to weave this part. So after weaving, this is what it looks like. So the next thing I'm going to do here is to add this taping band to my neckline, just to do a proper finishing. So I'm just going to fold from the starting point, then make a top stitch on it. So for the first top stitching, you can see that I did it on the collar alone. So I'm just going to maintain this same straight stitch down to the other end. So for the second top stitching, I'm going to be top stitching on the main fabric itself, just to keep this neckline area firm on the fabric. So I'm just going to top stitch down to the other side as well. So after sewing, this is what we have. This is what it is looking like. So I'm just going to properly go ahead to iron this. So after ironing, the next thing you want to do is to properly align it together, just as you can see. Then I'm just going to go ahead to add a point for my button. I started from this point. Then from that point, you can decide to come down by 5 inches from that point. So I came down by 5 inches. Then from that point, then I came down again by 5 inches, and I went on and on like that to the last point. Also went ahead to add a point to the pocket flap, just as you can see me do right here, and here is the final result of what it looks like. So if you're going to be trying this, please kindly let me know in the comment section. And if you watch this video to this point, this is me saying thank you so much for always watching my YouTube videos, and thank you so much for always supporting me. Please kindly like the subscribe video, comment and share to your loved ones, and I'll see you again in the next video. Bye.